The night sky above Earth burned with light. From orbit, the alien fleet appeared like 1,000 cold suns, each ship a floating mountain of metal and fury. Their weapons glowed faintly blue, charged with energy strong enough to erase continents. Every government channel across Earth had gone silent. The Galactic Council had sent its armada, not to invade but to judge. Inside Earth's orbital defense station, the tension was like ice. General Elias Ward stood before the command table, watching hundreds of red dots blink across the screen. The transmission from the alien flagship was already waiting, its voice a cold hum that filled the air. Planet 3 of Sol System, designated Deathworld, it said. You stand accused of violating Council protocols by manipulating forbidden knowledge. Surrender your archives or face containment. The human officers exchanged nervous glances. Everyone knew what containment meant. An orbital quarantine, total communication cut off from the rest of the galaxy. To the Council, that was a fate worse than war. Humanity would be erased from history without a single shot fired. General Ward took a slow breath. "Patch me through," he said. The holographic feed flickered to life, revealing the Council's flagship chamber. Thousands of alien faces filled the tiers of light, representing hundreds of species. Some resembled crystalline serpents, others clouds of living mist. At the center stood the High Arbiter, his presence towering and stern. "Humanity," the voice thundered. "You have accessed the collapse equation, knowledge forbidden for 10,000 galactic cycles. Explain yourselves." In the middle of that vast council stood one woman. Her uniform was plain, her expression calm. Her name was Mara Vale, chosen to represent Earth's Science Command. She stood alone on a raised platform beneath the scrutiny of beings whose minds stretched across galaxies. Her heartbeat was steady, her hands clasped behind her back. "We didn't steal your equation," Mara said evenly. "We solved it." The chamber erupted in whispers and static. Alien advisors leaned toward their consoles, translators scrambling to confirm her words. "Impossible," hissed a voice from the Zethian delegation. "Our scholars have pursued that equation for millennia. You are primitive. Your planet is violent. You do not understand cosmic mechanics." Mara raised an eyebrow. "Then why do our satellites keep predicting your stellar collapses before you detect them?" A silence rippled through the crowd. Even the Arbiter leaned forward. "You claim to comprehend the death of stars?" "We don't claim," Mara said. "We calculated." General Ward watched from orbit as the signal streamed back. Every human listening on Earth, every scientist, every soldier held their breath. Humanity had always been the smallest voice in the galaxy, but tonight they stood in the brightest light. The Arbiter gestured. "If your words hold truth, you will demonstrate them. Solve the equation before the Council." A massive holographic grid appeared around Mara, filled with alien symbols and numbers that stretched into dimensions humans could barely perceive. The formula shimmered, alive with complexity. Even the viewing AI aboard the alien ship struggled to stabilize the projection. It was a test that no machine, no civilization had ever completed. Mara didn't move for several seconds. The Council waited, expecting fear or confusion. But instead, she reached into her jacket pocket and pulled out a small paper notebook and a pencil. A simple, worn-down pencil from Earth. Gasps filled the chamber. "She uses primitive instruments?" Someone whispered. Mara ignored them. She crouched slightly, her eyes focused, and began to write. Her pencil scratched against the paper softly, a sound too human for that cold chamber. Lines of numbers, symbols, and notes filled the page in quick strokes. She didn't rely on AI projection or quantum computing. She didn't summon data streams. She thought quietly, organically, her mind following a path no machine could map. Minutes passed. The Council grew restless. The Arbiter's tone darkened. "Your delay only proves..." "Done," Mara said, closing her notebook. The Council chamber froze. Even the sound of energy humming through the structure seemed to stop. "Repeat that," said the Arbiter. She looked up. "You built your equation wrong. You accounted for gravitational decay, but ignored entropy resonance from overlapping time distortions near stellar cores. The collapse doesn't occur from energy loss, it accelerates from internal symmetry failure." Alien scholars murmured in confusion. "That would contradict every model." "Run it," Mara interrupted. The Council's AI systems processed her handwritten formula. In seconds, the display erupted with light. The simulation ran perfectly. The data aligned in harmony. showing the exact conditions of stellar death the galaxy had been trying to understand for 10,000 years. The Arbiter's face went pale. "Verification. Confirmed," said a robotic voice from the Council AI. The entire chamber erupted in chaos. Thousands of alien delegates stood, speaking over one another in disbelief. "How?" one shouted. No human neural pattern could process those constants. Mara's voice was calm, even soft. "You rely too much on systems that think for you. We learned to survive by thinking alone." On Earth, the control room erupted in cheers. General Ward exhaled for the first time in minutes. But the relief didn't last long. The Arbiter slammed his staff on the floor and the sound echoed like thunder. "You will explain how you acquired such knowledge. Humanity's comprehension of this magnitude cannot exist without external interference." Mara's eyes hardened. "Maybe it's not interference," she said. "Maybe it's evolution." The Council fell silent. Billions across the galaxy were watching. Humanity, once dismissed as reckless and dangerous, had just outsmarted the most advanced collective intelligence in the known universe. The Arbiter studied her for a long moment. "Your civilization was born on a death world," he said slowly. "Your minds have adapted to constant threat. Your instincts make you unpredictable. That makes you dangerous." Mara didn't flinch. "Dangerous doesn't mean wrong." The Arbiter's gaze flicked to the alien scholars. "You will remain under observation. The Council will determine if your kind's intelligence is a threat to galactic stability." The signal ended abruptly. Back aboard the human defense station, the silence was heavy. General Ward looked at the transmission feed fading to black. "What do you think they'll do?" an officer asked. Ward's jaw tightened. "They'll study her first. Then they'll study all of us." Mara stood alone in the transport chamber, watching the blue star outside flicker through the observation window. Her expression didn't change, but inside, she felt the weight of every human who had ever fought to prove that their minds mattered. They called her Deathworlder like it was an insult, but to her, it was the highest honor. She remembered the planet she came from, a place where storms could kill, where predators evolved teeth sharper than steel, where survival required not just strength but wit. On Earth, life itself had been the greatest teacher. The aliens didn't understand that. They couldn't. Her communicator blinked. A soft voice came through. "Ambassador Julian from Earth Command." "They're shaken," he said quietly. "They thought they were gods of knowledge. Now they're afraid of us." Mara's lips curved into a faint smile. "Good," she said. "Fear makes people listen." Outside, the alien fleet began to reposition itself, vast ships aligning into new formations. They were no longer aiming their weapons. They were watching, observing. An entire galaxy had just realized humanity was not a child race crawling among the stars, but a mind, capable of rewriting the laws of the universe as the human. Defense ships drifted past the Council Armada. Mara's gaze stayed fixed on the endless field of alien metal. Somewhere in her chest, she felt a strange mix of pride and sorrow. She hadn't meant to humiliate them. She had just shown them that humans could think differently, wildly, chaotically, beautifully, and that she knew would change everything. She whispered to herself, "They built their truths out of fear. We built ours out of survival." The stars beyond the viewport flared in silence like the universe itself had heard her. Far below, the people of Earth celebrated their survival. They didn't know yet that the Council's next meeting wouldn't be about punishment. It would be about curiosity. Somewhere in the heart of the galactic chamber, alien scholars stared at her handwritten notes, still hovering on the display. They replayed the feed over and over, trying to understand how a human mind saw patterns their machines could not. The question began to spread across the galaxy like wildfire. If the humans could solve the collapse equation in minutes, what else were they capable of? The alien fleet appeared over Mars without warning. Hundreds of colossal vessels emerged from hyperspace, surrounding the red planet like a silver noose. Each ship pulsed with energy signatures powerful enough to shatter a moon. The message was clear. The Galactic Council had returned, and this time they came prepared. Humanity's outer defense grid activated in seconds. Planetary cannons locked onto the intruders, and the orbital shields shimmered blue across the Martian horizon. In the war room beneath Olympus Base, Commander Rylan Voss stood at the center of a ring of holographic displays, his eyes focused and calm. "They're not firing," a young officer reported. "They're waiting." Ryland studied the alien formation. The ships weren't arranged in attack lines. They were positioned like a net, surrounding Earth's colonies with mathematical precision. "They're testing our response," he said. "They want to see how we think." Moments later, a transmission filled the room. The voice was deep, almost mechanical, translated through the Council system. "Commander of the Deathworld species, your people have demonstrated capabilities beyond acceptable limits. The Council demands to test the origins of your intelligence. You will surrender your leading scientist for examination." Ryland's jaw tightened. Everyone in the room knew who they meant. Dr. Mara Vale, the woman who had solved the collapse equation weeks earlier. Her discovery had shaken the entire galaxy. The aliens no longer wanted war. They wanted understanding. Or control. "They're not asking," Ryland said quietly. "They're warning us." The Council's ships began to shift position, forming a massive energy field between Mars and Earth. It was not an attack formation. It was a blockade. Humanity was being isolated, surrounded by power it couldn't match. Yet Ryland knew brute force wasn't how humans survived. They were Deathworlders, outnumbered, outgunned, but never outsmarted. "Open channel," he ordered. The communication line buzzed to life. "Council fleet," he said. "If you want to study human intelligence, then you'll have to understand something first. We don't hand over our people." Before the aliens could respond, the human fleet executed a maneuver no alien strategist had ever considered. Every ship in orbit activated decoy transponders, projecting dozens of false readings across nearby space. To the alien scanners, Earth's defenses suddenly multiplied 100-fold. Thousands of phantom ships appeared in formation, surrounding the alien armada. Alien sensors panicked. Defensive shields flared as the Council ships scrambled to recalculate. Their targeting systems failed to distinguish which readings were real. In the chaos, Ryland's voice cut through the static. "We don't need bigger guns. We just need better ideas." For 5 tense minutes, the galaxy watched as the Deathworld fleet, outnumbered 100 to 1, stood its ground. The aliens could have fired, but they didn't. For the first time, they hesitated. Then the transmission came again, colder than before. "Your defiance will not be forgotten." The Council fleet powered down its weapons and vanished into hyperspace. The silence that followed was almost unreal. Humanity had faced the galaxy's greatest power and forced it to blink. On Earth, the celebration was brief. Mara Vale was still under Council observation, confined in a secured research facility deep beneath Geneva. Though free from arrest, she was constantly watched through 1,000 alien sensors. They wanted to see how she thought, how her mind worked. To them, her brain was a new kind of weapon. Mara sat inside a transparent observation room, aware of every camera focused on her. Across from her floated a group of alien scientists, each resembling glowing spheres of liquid light. One of them spoke through a translator. "Your cognitive activity shows unpredictability, chaos. You solve problems without structure. Explain." Mara smiled faintly. "Because the universe isn't structured. You just pretend it is." The aliens exchanged low vibrations of disagreement. They projected holograms of equations, models of neural maps, simulations of logic patterns. "Your methods defy optimization. How can such randomness lead to consistent success?" She leaned back. "We evolved on a world where everything tried to kill us. Storms, beasts, our own mistakes. You learn to think fast or die. You can't optimize instinct." For the first time, one of the aliens dimmed its glow, a sign of confusion. They had studied thousands of intelligent species, but none had minds that behaved like humans. Their thoughts were too flexible, too illogical, and yet that chaos allowed them to adapt faster than any known race. While the Council's scientists observed, the galaxy itself began to divide. Some species demanded humanity be contained before its unpredictable intelligence spread. Others admired them, calling Earth a miracle of evolution. In the Council's central chamber, the High Arbiter convened a new session. The Great Hall shimmered under starlight, with delegates from every known system present. "Humanity's behavior threatens galactic equilibrium," he declared. "They solve impossibilities in minutes. They adapt to every trial. Such power cannot remain unchecked." But not all agreed. A young aquatic delegate named Relia, representing the ocean world of Siren, rose to speak. "They are not a threat," she said. "They are proof that intelligence does not require control. Their chaos is a kind of balance we have forgotten. Her words drew murmurs. Do you wish to defend the Deathworlders? Another delegate asked. Rilla nodded. Yes, because while we evolved in comfort, they evolved in crisis. They learned to see patterns through pain. We fear them because we no longer understand that kind of mind. Back on Earth, Mara stared out the observation window at the night sky. She didn't know that her words and actions had ignited a galactic debate that could change the future of every species. All she knew was that she was tired of being treated like a puzzle. Her reflection shimmered as the glass behind her rippled open. Relaya entered quietly, her aquatic skin glinting under the soft light. They will not stop studying you, she said gently. You frightened them, Mara smiled. Good. Maybe fear will make them think harder. Rela tilted her head. How did you see the collapse equation so easily? Even I cannot follow your thought structure. Mara looked up at the stars. Because I didn't see it as numbers. I saw it as a story of things falling apart and finding balance again. Everything that collapses has a rhythm. You just have to listen. Rela stared at her for a long moment. Your species sees emotion in logic. Because logic without emotion is blind, Mara said. The next morning, a council transport arrived in orbit. It wasn't a warship this time, but a vessel of scholars and observers. The council had decided to hold what they called a mind trial, a public test designed to measure the limits of human intelligence. Billions of beings across the galaxy would watch as humanity faced an impossible challenge. General Ward contacted Mara from orbit. You don't have to do this, he warned. They want to make you fail. Mara looked calm. They've been trying to make us fail since we joined the stars. Maybe it's time they see why we never do. When she boarded the council ship, the alien scholars watched her in silence. The room was filled with devices that could read thought patterns, map synapses, and record every flicker of emotion. They wanted to quantify human unpredictability, to measure chaos itself. As the ship prepared for hyperspace, Mara closed her eyes. She could feel the tension in the air, the unspoken fear radiating from every alien in the chamber. To them, this was a scientific test. To her, it was survival. The stars stretched into lines as the ship jumped into faster-than-light travel. The mind trial would take place at the edge of the galaxy, in the same chamber where the oldest laws of intelligence were written. For the first time in their long history, the Council wasn't testing technology, power, or weapons. They were testing thought itself, and deep inside that ship, one human smiled quietly to herself, ready to prove that no machine, no ancient mind, no council could ever understand the beautiful chaos of a Deathworlder's mind. The alien fleet came out of warp space above Jupiter without warning. The gas giant's surface glowed beneath the reflection of thousands of silver ships, each shaped like a blade cutting through the void. Their arrival sent shockwaves across the solar system. Communication satellites lit up with warning signals. Earth's defense network went silent for 3 full seconds as every human system scrambled to adapt. Inside Earth's orbital command, the tension felt electric. Admiral Cole Brenner stood before the massive tactical display showing the enemy formation. That's not a scouting fleet, he said. That's a siege formation. His second officer swallowed hard. Their signal says they're here for the trial, but their weapons are charged. Cole narrowed his eyes. Then it's not a trial. It's intimidation. Every alien ship bore the insignia of the Galactic Council. They had come to test humanity's intelligence again, to determine if humans were a danger to galactic order. But this time, they brought enough firepower to destroy every human settlement from Luna to Mars. Cole's fingers drummed against the console. Prepare countermeasures. Don't power weapons yet. Let them think we're afraid. Outside, the alien flagship's communication beam pierced the void and flooded the command center with blue light. A calm but commanding voice filled the air. Deathworld species of Sol, the Council summons your representative. The mind trial begins now. Any act of aggression will be considered a declaration of war. Mara Vale stood ready aboard her shuttle. She looked out the viewport at the alien armada stretching across the sky. Her small vessel looked like a grain of sand before mountains. She had faced their council before, but this time the stakes were higher. Billions watched across the galaxy, waiting to see if humanity could survive a challenge designed to break the mind itself. Her shuttle entered the flagship's hangar under heavy escort. When she stepped out, the floor beneath her shimmered with energy fields. Alien observers filled the chamber, silent and curious. In the center stood the Arbiter, tall and composed, his eyes like burning stars. "Human," he said, "you claim your kind can perceive what others cannot. You claim to think beyond logic. Today we will see if that chaos can survive truth." Mara said nothing. The Arbiter motioned toward a transparent sphere at the center of the hall. "The infinite labyrinth," he declared. "A creation of 1,000 minds. It adapts to the thinker. Every thought becomes a path. Every error becomes a trap. None have escaped it, not even our greatest artificial intellects." The crowd whispered. Alien scholars leaned forward. Some were excited. Others expected to see the Deathworlder fail. Mara looked at the glowing sphere. "So it reads my mind?" "It reads your soul," the Arbiter said. Mara smiled faintly. "Then you're about to have a hard time." She stepped forward and the sphere engulfed her in light. Her body vanished, replaced by streams of glowing data. For the watching audience, she seemed to dissolve into pure thought. The trial had begun. Inside the labyrinth, Mara found herself standing on a vast plain of shifting symbols. The floor wasn't solid. It moved like liquid glass, reflecting her own thoughts as images. Every time she focused on one thing, the world around her changed. She saw pathways rise and crumble, walls forming from equations she half recognized. The labyrinth wasn't built to be solved by strength or speed. It was built to trap those who tried to understand it logically. She took a slow breath. "You're not a maze," she whispered. "You're a question." The symbols twisted, reacting to her voice. Alien observers gasped as the readings spiked. She was moving through the labyrinth faster than predicted. One council scientist shouted, "She's not solving it, she's guiding it." Mara walked calmly, letting the patterns shift. The labyrinth tested her emotions, showing her fears, her memories, her doubts. She saw her home, her mother's face, the burning skies of Earth during the last war. But she didn't run. She laughed softly, realizing the truth. "You think fear stops us," she said. "It's what keeps us moving." Outside, alien minds struggled to follow her progress. The Council's AI began to malfunction. It couldn't map her thought process. Her mind was moving too unpredictably. Every time they tried to predict her path, it changed. "Impossible," one scholar whispered. "She's using emotion as logic." "She's human," another replied. "Emotion is her logic." Inside the labyrinth, Mara reached the center, an endless void filled with thousands of glowing lines. It was the heart of the test, where every being before her had failed. The system spoke to her in a voice that wasn't a voice, a pulse that seemed to come from every direction. "Why do you seek understanding, Deathworlder? You were born to survive, not to know." Mara closed her eyes. "Because survival is just the first question." The labyrinth reacted violently. The world around her broke apart, forming storms of light and geometry. Equations twisted into storms, and the ground beneath her feet shattered into endless reflections. In the council chamber, alarms went off. The energy reading spiked beyond safe limits. The Arbiter shouted, "Disconnect her before she collapses the system." But it was too late. The labyrinth wasn't collapsing, it was transforming. The algorithms inside began rewriting themselves, following Mara's cognitive pattern. Her way of thinking, her human intuition, had infected the labyrinth structure. The impossible test was learning from her. Inside the storm, Mara walked forward calmly. "You were built to measure intelligence," she said. "But intelligence isn't measurement. It's imagination." With those words, the labyrinth went silent. Every projection froze. The sphere that contained her stopped glowing. Outside, alien scholars stared in disbelief. "Did she fail?" someone asked. The sphere cracked open and light poured out like fire. Mara stepped forward, completely unharmed. Her eyes reflected the faint shimmer of starlight. "I didn't fail," she said softly. "I finished it." The Arbiter stood speechless. The AI projected its final report across the hall. Subject achieved completion state. Logical consistency restored. No precedent found. The silence that followed was unlike anything the Council had ever experienced. No one clapped. No one spoke. They simply stared at her, the first mind to ever defeat the infinite labyrinth. Finally, the Arbiter spoke, his voice low. "You broke the unbreakable." Mara shook her head. "No, you built a cage for thought. I just opened a window." Word spread through the galaxy within hours. Every planet, every academy, every AI collective received the broadcast. The Deathworlder had done what no civilization had achieved. She had beaten a machine designed to trap intelligence itself. Back on Earth, the sky lit up with messages from colonies and outposts celebrating her victory. Yet Mara felt no triumph. She only felt curiosity, because during her time inside the labyrinth, she had seen something. In the final moments before she exited, buried deep within the labyrinth's data, she had glimpsed a code, an echo of something ancient. It wasn't alien. It wasn't machine-made. It was human. She didn't tell the council about it. Not yet. But she knew one thing with certainty. The labyrinth hadn't been entirely their creation. Someone, long ago, had planted a human seed inside the machine. And now the galaxy would begin to wonder if the humans had truly just arrived among the stars, or if, somehow, they had been part of this mystery since the beginning. As she returned to her ship, she looked at the alien fleet still hovering in the distance. They had expected to frighten her, to remind humanity of its place. Instead, they had been reminded of something far more terrifying. The smallest species in the galaxy had just outthought the greatest minds of all creation. And somewhere, deep in the dark between stars, something ancient had begun to stir, something that knew the Deathworlders were not finished yet. The alien fleet darkened the sky above Earth, their ships arranged like a wall of silver fire. The largest vessel, a floating fortress miles long, carried weapons that could erase continents. Every telescope on the planet pointed upward. Every screen broadcast the same terrifying sight, the day humanity stood face to face with the Galactic Enforcement Armada. In the deep chambers of Earth Command, General Rhea Dalton stared at the holographic feed. The aliens had given them 12 hours to surrender all nuclear and orbital weapons, claiming Earth's militarization violated galactic peace. But Rhea knew surrender meant extinction. Her second-in-command spoke quietly. Their weapons could vaporize the moon if they fire in full. Rhea didn't blink. Then we don't let them fire. On the tactical display, the alien formation was perfect. Too perfect. They moved in synchronized arcs, confident in their superiority. Every ship's shield reflected the sun like molten mirrors. But Rhea noticed something others didn't. The distance between them. Precise, predictable, machine-perfect. "Show me their communication relays," she ordered. A web of glowing lines appeared. The aliens relied on a central hub near their flagship to coordinate the fleet. If they lost connection for even a few seconds, their formation would collapse. But no weapon on Earth could reach that high, not against their shields. Rhea smiled faintly. "We don't need to reach them. We just need to make them think we did." She turned to the technicians. "Activate Project Mirage." The command room fell silent. The project was top secret, a desperate experiment created by human engineers working in abandoned bunkers under Antarctica. It wasn't a weapon. It was deception. A swarm of quantum-coded signals designed to create false readings across enemy systems. If it worked, the aliens wouldn't know what was real. Within minutes, hundreds of disguised satellites began transmitting impossible data into space. To the alien sensors, it looked as though thousands of nuclear missiles were rising from Earth. Everyone aimed directly at their ships. The alien commander aboard the flagship froze as his tactical screens filled with alerts. Multiple launches detected. Hundreds of warheads inbound. Another officer shouted, "Impossible! No species on this planet has that many launch silos." The commander snarled, "Deploy shields across all vectors. Prepare countermeasures!" The sky above Earth shimmered with alien energy barriers glowing like ribbons of glass. But the missiles never came. The radar images remained, but there were no impacts, no heat trails, nothing. Inside their ships, alien officers began to panic. Their sensors reported invisible projectiles, then phantom heat signatures, then entire fleets emerging from nowhere. To them, it looked like Earth had hundreds of cloaked warships appearing around the atmosphere. The commander slammed his clawed hand on the console. "How can this be? They are primitive." "Primitive," Rhea whispered from the surface, watching their formation break apart on her screen. But not stupid. For 3 hours, chaos reigned among the alien fleet. Their own AI systems began shutting down under the stress of contradictory data. Automated weapons fired blindly into empty space, hitting friendly ships. Explosions bloomed silently across the void. On the ground, the people of Earth watched in awe as the invincible fleet began tearing itself apart. But then the aliens changed tactics. Their commander, realizing the deception, ordered a direct orbital strike to erase the source of the interference. A pulse cannon charged aboard the flagship, glowing with enough energy to burn through the atmosphere. Rhea stood before the display. They're powering up their main weapon. The technician's voice trembled. If they fire, we can't block it. Rhea took a slow breath. Then let's make them hesitate. She opened a secure channel and broadcast directly to the alien fleet. Her face appeared across their monitors, her voice calm and clear. This is General Rhea Dalton of Earth Command. You think we're weak. You think we fight with guns and rockets. You're wrong. We fight with fear, and yours is already showing. The alien commander hissed. You dare speak to the Council's armada? I don't dare, she said. I calculate. She pressed a button on her console. Behind her, the screen showed Earth's nuclear silos opening in synchronized motion. The feed was carefully constructed, half real, half illusion. To alien sensors, it appeared as though every weapon on the planet was aimed straight at them. You fire that cannon, Rhea said quietly, and every nuclear warhead on Earth will rise. You might destroy us, but our radiation will follow you home. You'll never reach your council alive. Silence. For several long seconds, the alien commander said nothing. His crew waited, trembling. His orders were clear, punish the humans, but his instincts screamed caution. The data still made no sense. Their scanners couldn't tell real from false anymore. Finally, the commander gave the order no one expected. Hold fire, Rhea exhaled slowly. On Earth, cheers erupted across cities and bases. Humanity had just forced the most powerful fleet in the galaxy to hesitate. But the battle wasn't over. The alien commander opened a direct channel to the Galactic Council. The Deathworlders possess technology that bends perception, he said coldly. They are not to be underestimated. The Council's response came minutes later. Neutralize the source of their deception. Capture it if possible. As the fleet regrouped, a new class of alien vessels appeared from hyperspace. Black, angular ships built for infiltration, not war. They slipped through the upper atmosphere like shadows. In Antarctica, inside the frozen base where Project Mirage operated, a team of human engineers worked in silence. Their lead scientist, Dr. Keller, looked up as alarms began flashing red. They found us. Above them, alien dropships descended, cutting through the blizzard like falling stars. Keller hit the emergency switch. We can't let them take the system. He turned to his assistant. Initiate Echo Protocol. The assistant hesitated. That will overload the entire grid. I know. Keller's face was grim. If they learn how Mirage works, we lose everything. Outside, explosions rocked the ice. Alien troops broke through the outer tunnels, weapons humming with energy. Inside the control chamber, Keller pulled a small drive from the main console, a single shard of data containing the heart of Project Mirage. He pressed it into the assistant's hand. Take this. Get it to command. Run and don't look back. What about you? Keller looked toward the shaking walls, the sound of alien boots echoing closer. I'll buy you time. Moments later, the aliens burst into the chamber. Keller stood before the console, hands raised. You're too late, he said quietly. They scanned the room, their leader demanding, Where is the signal generator? Keller smiled faintly. In your head. Before they could react, he slammed his hand onto the control pad. The system surged. Energy poured through the base, lighting up the ice like a sunrise beneath the snow. The aliens screamed as their sensors overloaded. A blinding wave of data expanded outward, frying every scanner in 100 miles. When the light faded, the base was gone. Only an empty crater of glassy ice remained. Hours later, the assistant arrived at an extraction point and handed the data shard to Earth Command. Rhea held it in her palm, silent. The aliens had destroyed the facility, but humanity still had the code, the one thing they feared most. The power to make their reality lie to them. From orbit, the alien fleet withdrew, their systems still malfunctioning from the overload. The Galactic Council ordered a retreat and investigation. Earth had survived again, not through brute force but through illusion, through strategy, through the terrifying unpredictability that only humans could create. As the fleet vanished into the stars, Rhea looked up at the night sky. They'll be back, she said softly. Her aide asked, Do we stand a chance next time? Rhea smiled, weary but certain. They're fighting ghosts now. And ghosts don't lose. The warning came at dawn. Every observatory on Earth caught the same impossible signal. A pulse of energy so vast it echoed across every wavelength, from radio to gamma. Within seconds, Earth's skies darkened as artificial shadows appeared overhead. It wasn't clouds. It was ships. Thousands of alien vessels emerged from hyperspace above the planet, each larger than mountains. They did not form ranks or patterns. They formed a cage. The entire solar system was surrounded, on board the orbital defense platform. Helios 9. Commander Leon watched the tactical feed flicker with red icons. The Galactic Council had sent their full armada this time, an entire coalition of alien species united under one goal, the complete subjugation of Earth. Her voice stayed steady as she spoke. "How long until they open fire?" "Less than 15 minutes, Commander," replied the operations officer. "They're charging their planetary disruptors." Leon stared at the feed. Every previous encounter, humans had escaped through deception, illusion, and wit. But now the aliens had come prepared. Their ships were equipped with anti-mirage sensors, capable of ignoring false readings. The Council had learned, and yet they were still afraid. Because humanity had done what no one in the galaxy ever had, defied the Council, and lived. Leon opened a secure channel to Earth Command. "All stations, this is Commander Leon of Helios 9. The enemy has surrounded the system. They plan to wipe us out, requesting permission to engage Project Eclipse." The voice of Admiral Knox came through, grim and resolute. "You're cleared, Commander." "Begin at your discretion, Godspeed," Leon nodded. "Activate Eclipse Protocol." Deep beneath the surface of the moon, ancient silos opened. Hidden within them were structures that had never been shown to the public, black towers humming with silent power. They were not weapons in the traditional sense. They were gravity forges capable of bending light and mass itself. Back on Helios 9, a young technician whispered, "If this fails..." Leon cut him off. "It won't, not while humans still breathe." Above them, the alien fleet began to move. Their flagship, the size of a continent, opened panels along its hull revealing rows of energy cannons. The beams charged, their glow flooding the void. Every city on Earth braced for impact. Families held each other close. Soldiers manned their posts. Across the oceans and continents, humanity waited for the sky to fall. Then Leon gave the command. Now. The lunar forges activated. Space itself rippled like a living ocean. For a moment, stars seemed to twist, bending inward toward the moon. The alien ships immediately detected gravitational fluctuations, but before they could adjust, their sensors began to fail. "What's happening to the readings?" shouted one alien officer aboard the flagship. "Impossible distortion. The human moon is warping gravity signatures." In seconds, the entire fleet's positioning systems collapsed. Their formations broke apart as invisible waves of force bent light, matter, and signal alike. Leon watched from her command deck as the massive alien ships drifted out of alignment. "They rely on precision," she murmured. "Let's see how they fight without it." The Helios 9 fired its rail cannons, launching tungsten slugs at near-light speed. The shots curved unnaturally through the warped space and struck targets the aliens thought were untouchable. Explosions flared across the dark sky. The alien fleet retaliated. Hundreds of plasma beams rained down toward Earth and the moon, but the eclipse field bent their trajectories, curving them harmlessly into empty space or right back toward the attackers. From the surface, humanity watched in awe as the heavens lit up with spiraling beams and fire. It looked like the universe itself had turned against the invaders, but the aliens were not without counters. On their flagship, the Supreme Commander ordered the release of the null spheres, devices designed to erase gravity distortions and stabilize reality itself. The black orbs scattered across the fleet and began to pulse. One by one, the distortions started to fade. The stars returned to normal. The eclipse field was collapsing. On Helios 9, alarms screamed. "They're nullifying the effect. The field's breaking down." Leon clenched her fists. "Then we moved to Phase 2. Commander, that's not ready." "It doesn't need to be ready," she said coldly. "It just needs to work once." Phase 2 of Project Eclipse wasn't about defense, it was about exposure. A trap built within a trap. As the gravity field weakened, it revealed what was hidden behind it. A network of hundreds of unmanned vessels, decoys powered by fusion cores, each one disguised as a planetary cannon. The alien fleet immediately relocked their weapons. Their sensors read thousands of human warships rising from Earth. "Fire everything," the alien commander ordered. The sky erupted. Energy lances tore through space, shredding the decoy fleet to dust. For a moment, the aliens believed they had won. Then came the signal. The destruction of the decoys had triggered the final part of Eclipse, a hidden chain of satellites programmed to harness the kinetic energy of the alien shots themselves. The absorbed energy was redirected and condensed into one beam, aimed straight at the alien flagship. The commander turned too late. The combined power of his own fleet struck him first. The blast tore through the ship's core and detonated with the brightness of a small sun. The explosion cascaded through nearby vessels, consuming hundreds of ships in a blinding wave. From Earth's surface, it looked as though the night sky had turned to fire. On Helios 9, the crew watched silently. "Direct hit confirmed," said the operations officer. "Their flagship is gone. Remaining vessels are retreating beyond lunar orbit." Leon exhaled slowly, her voice calm but heavy. "Let them go. They'll spread the story." And they did. The surviving alien ships fled into hyperspace, carrying the tale of what they had witnessed. How a primitive world had turned their greatest weapons against them. How their precision and power had meant nothing before human unpredictability. Weeks later, far beyond the edges of the Milky Way, the Galactic Council convened. Their vast chamber buzzed with unease. Holoscreens displayed the battle data, their losses, the energy anomalies, the impossible curvature of space itself. The supreme scholar of the council spoke, his voice shaking. "How can they manipulate gravity with such accuracy? They were a level 3 civilization barely decades ago." Another replied, "They don't manipulate gravity. They manipulate perception. They make the galaxy see what they want it to see." The room fell silent. Finally, the High Arbiter stood. "No more assaults. No more wars. Containment only. The Deathworlders are too dangerous." Across the galaxy, the order spread. The humans were to be left alone, isolated, observed, but never challenged. The Council couldn't risk another disaster. Back on Earth, months passed in uneasy peace. Reconstruction began. Cities were rebuilt. The skies cleared. Humanity celebrated survival, but the leaders knew what was coming next. In the command bunker beneath the Pacific, Admiral Knox and Commander Leon stood together, watching the stars through a glass dome. "They'll be back," Knox said quietly. "I know," Leon replied, "but next time they won't come to destroy us. They'll come to learn." Knox smiled faintly. "Then we'd better have something new for them to fear." Outside, the moon glowed softly, hiding the ruins of the gravity forges beneath its surface. No one on Earth spoke of Project Eclipse again, but the galaxy never forgot. For centuries afterward, alien scholars whispered of the day when logic broke, when physics itself betrayed them, when a small, stubborn world solved a problem their brightest minds could not. The Deathworlders had turned the laws of the universe into their ally, and in doing so, they had taught the galaxy one final lesson: never underestimate a species that learned to survive its own planet.